Welcome back to Light Beyond the Ashes, the podcast where science meets spirituality and awakening becomes embodied. I'm your host, Amber Humphrey. Today you will meet Kristin Taylor, an intuitive healer, lightworker, and soul on a mission. Kristin came to Earth with a radiant heart and a divine purpose, and her spiritual awakening lit up everyone's lives around her. On this episode, she shares the powerful story of how her gifts were activated during her first Spiritual Bestie weekend in Utah, a sacred turning point that transformed her forever. From her healing hands to the vibrational energy she carries, Kristin is a true beacon of light. Her presence is medicine, her touch, transformative, and her frequency, a wake-up call to the soul. This isn't just a conversation. This is a transmission of healing, hope, and remembrance. Tune in if you're ready to awaken, expand, and feel the power of pure love radiating through the airwaves. The moment you press play, you'll feel it. Hello, welcome to Light Beyond the Ashes, the podcast where we talk to spiritually awakened souls who have risen from the ashes of their own life to find light on the other side. Today, I am interviewing my bestie, Kristin Taylor. She is on TikTok as well. I'm Light Beyond the Ashes on TikTok, and Kristin is currently Consciously Kristin. And I'm just so excited to have you here. We've been talking about doing this podcast for a little while, and it kind of just feels like I'm FaceTiming with my bestie. But tell the world a little bit about who you are and how you got here. We'll dive into your spiritual awakening, but introduce yourself to all my listeners.
Well, thanks, Amber, for having me. This is so exciting. I know we've been talking about a podcast for a really long time now, and it's actually happening. So that's so exciting. But I am Kristin Taylor. I currently reside in Wisconsin, just outside of Milwaukee, and I still work within corporate America, and I work within the insurance realm. And if you want me to, I can kind of just jump into my spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I mean, I think, both of us are, boss ladies in our own right in the 3D world, and we're helping change the world. And, I think the way that most people might think, you go to your job every 9 to 5, but what happens behind the curtain? What happens behind closed doors? And I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to there might be something more that we haven't been told or that we weren't aware of. And I think that's why everyone's here. So let's dive in. What was your spiritual awakening like? Was it a one-time event, a aha moment, or did it kind of unfold over time?
Yeah, so I'd actually say both. And I failed to mention that I am a wife and a mom. So I have three littles. I have a 15-year-old and then two 11-year-old twins, boy-girl twins. Um, but I would say both on the spiritual awakening side. There was a slow progression and then this major boom that we can get into that really caught me off guard and took me to another plane of existence, if you will, for quite a long period of time. And then I had to come back down to earth and reintegrate. But I will start by saying I was just a typical mom, a typical corporate American citizen. And one day I was sitting in my daughter's room and um, was looking in the mirror, and I wanted to turn the mirror because I didn't like what I saw. So I was drinking a lot and just wasn't happy. And I was, wearing a mask of happiness. And that moment when I turned the mirror, something clicked. I can't just keep turning the mirror. I have to do something. And so I started in kind of the self-help journey at that time. And for awareness, my dad had just gone to prison. And he kind of always had his thumb over me my entire life. And I love him dearly, and I've forgiven him in all the ways now, and I'm so thankful for him. But it was my pivotal moment. And side note, I had my astrology read along this path, and they were like, well, your prisoner symbol is right next to your spiritual awakening symbol. Does that mean anything to you? And I kind of laughed because I was like, you have no idea. So all the synchronicities like that along the way. But yeah, it really did start with self-help. So there were two books that I read, Atomic Habits and then You Are a Badass. And those two books really propelled me to start looking at myself versus looking external and what I could do to be better. Because also I was 70 pounds heavier when this started, and that kind of started progressing as I dug into the self-help.
Yeah, I think that, it all kind of starts with you get to a point where it's like the point of no return. Like, I can't keep doing this anymore. This is not working for me. Like, alcohol is not helping me. You know, throwing myself into work is not helping me. I'm not feeling any better the more I'm just giving, giving, giving. And I think women experience this a lot is that self abandonment, right? Like, we take care of our children, we take care of our partners, we take care of our friends, we take care of our family, we take care of our jobs. But then, like, when do you have energy to take care of yourself? And a lot of times it's when you reach burnout level.
Yep.
And that's what happened for me, at least, was like, I had worked so hard. I put in so many hours building my dream clinic, like 17 hours a day, physical exhaustion, emotional, mental exhaustion. And then this betrayal happened to me. And my life just like and then you're like, I can't focus on anybody else other than me because I'm not okay. And then that's when, I found God. And it's like for me, it was a bursting open moment. So, what moment, how did it unfold for you of where it was like, okay, I'm reading a self help book. This is great. So, all of a sudden, I'm a sovereign being of light. and I've come to change the world because
It's
that's
so
what we're here
funny
to
you
do.
say it. Yeah. It's actually, I was actually doing a somatic release on my hip. So I had read about trauma storage on the hips,
Hmm.
and I was doing this position on the ground with my legs spread apart where you like pretend you have a ball between your legs. And so you pretend that there's a force there as you bring your knees up together. And as I was doing it, I don't know when exactly in the motion it happened, but something snapped and my whole body was shaking from my head down to my feet. It was like I was now laying on the floor like a snake and rattling around and thinking I was having a seizure and not understanding what I was going through. And I literally sat up from that moment like, okay, I'm fine. But like looked out the window because it was right in front of my window. And I was like, everything looks different. Like everything looked different. And so that's when I say I left that plane for a while. So I learned that this was a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. So I was slowly awakening up until that point, and I was questioning all sorts of things in my reality. But this was like this moment of like, what is this place and how did I get here? And everything was just so beautiful. Like I would sit outside and just stare at the grass. Like every blade of grass like had this golden aura around it, and the trees had golden aura hues around it. And I just wanted to be out there, and I couldn't understand why everyone else in my family was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, why can't you see this? Like, look at how beautiful everything is. And I really didn't even know what it was, but I was then in this round of wanting to learn everything. So I was reading books, but then it like was like quantum physics, holographic universe. Like what are we in and what's going on and who the hell am I? And it was quite beautiful. And it lasted about 5 months. And I can remember the day that I came off of it. It's like a drug, if you will, while you're on nothing. And I was like, "I did something wrong." Like, "I ate wrong," or "I didn't cut out this fast enough." Like, "I lost this because I'm not worthy of it." And what spirit would tell me in meditation was that, like, I got a sneak peek of what was coming so I could help ground it into the earth now. So I had, like, this goal to work for because we're all gonna get there. We're all gonna see this beauty all the time. So
It's so amazing. Like, just hearing how you talk about it, it's so peaceful. It's something that I can't fully articulate. You did a beautiful job just explaining it, but it's otherworldly. Like, you feel like you finally are one with everything around you. Um, and it's just we've struggled for so long, so many of us, and we've wanted to find something to like worth living for. Right? Like, money can only give you so much happiness. Like, you have a family and that can give you joy and happiness, but then there's like this internal peace that's really missing. And just to see you light up when you're talking about it, like, I remember those months for me. I remember when it was all like just blissed out and like, oh my God, this is amazing. Can you believe this and this and this? And then you feel kind of crazy and you're like, no one else sees this too. But then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you have to anchor back in. You have to come back and get grounded because like when you get too much in the ethereal, like the upper realms of this higher vibrational frequency where you don't feel like you want to come back down into this reality, you get too disjointed from the people who are around you. Did you experience that?
absolutely. Like, there were points in my relationship with my husband and I've been with him since I was 16, that I was like, we're not going to make it. Like, I'm actually sitting at our dining room table right now, and this is where we'd have like our dining room table talks. And it was like, hey, I'm on your team, but we're just operating at different wavelengths. But it feels like you want to pull me down to yours, and I don't want to go back down there. And like, but I'm not telling you, you have to come up here, but like, this isn't going to mesh unless we can figure this out. And I'm working really hard to keep my frequency.
Yeah.
And so while I was on this, it was this path of wanting to understand frequency, because I'm learning that that's all there is, that everything is emitting a frequency, and that's how this world works. So um, it's been this uh, beautiful journey with my husband, to him wanting to naturally rise as he sees all the magic that comes with rising, right? Because I wanted to side note and say, when this happened too, like, my favorite food in the world before my awakening, the Kundalini awakening, was steak. We'd go out to steak dinners, and I'd have my martini with my steak, and it would just be amazing. And I could not even think about steak or look at steak, or
Mhm.
just the thought of it just was so, it was such a turnoff. And so people, I think, in this spiritual community talk about, well, you think you need to stop something because it's bad, labeled bad. It doesn't vibe with the spiritual. But I don't think for me that was the case at all. It was more, as my frequency naturally rose, the things of the denser frequencies naturally fell away. I didn't have to force it. I didn't have to ask. The way I drank alcohol, you would have think I would have had to go to AA, and it just turned off. Like, I couldn't even look at or smell. Vodka was my drink of choice, and I just couldn't do it. So there was no judgment around it. There was no judgment of myself for doing it. I live in Wisconsin. I went to UW-Madison, which is like one of the top drinking schools in the country, partly thanks to probably me. And it was just this natural progression with, as my frequency rose.
Wow. That's so incredible. This is going to be a funny little edit to add in, but as we were talking, I kept hearing an interference in my ears when Kristen was talking. I'm not sure if it picks up on the audio recording or not, but Kristen has a tendency of messing with with technology everywhere she goes. Tell me a little bit about how often this happens with you.
Oh, so now I'm a Reiki practitioner, and after I do Reiki, I drive an electric vehicle, and sometimes I will shut my car down, and my phone will shut down. And my husband just laughs now. He's like, I can't with you and electronics, like, they just break. And so I have no real reason, but yeah, things go a little wonky. So,
Even when you went to, was it the Mind Valley conference in Los Angeles? You went there one time and you were sitting front row and all of the audio glitching out and no one could figure out what was wrong. I'm like, and I'm over here trying to problem solve, texting my husband, like, why won't the audio work? And I'm just,
sorry.
certain frequency. Okay. So what we were talking about was just how, you went through this big spontaneous spiritual awakening and your husband was with you on this journey too. And he, just like most marriages and most people, when one wakes up, not both people wake up at the same time. So how did you navigate being so vibrantly awake and not everyone else around you was awake just yet?
Yeah, that's a really great question. A really great question. It's very interesting because, uh, to be completely authentic and honest, Jeremy and I had a very codependent, trauma bonded relationship. We both came from similar backgrounds, um, different parental wounds, and it bonded us because we allowed each other to get lost in the trauma, if you will, and in the things that masked it. So we would drink together, and we wouldn't really ever discuss the deeper problem. I don't even know if we really realized there was one there. So as this progressed, and I finally got to a state where I was doing the shadow work, because, to be quite honest, in the beginning, it was like love and light. There is no
Mhm.
shadow. And maybe we'll get there today on how I saw firsthand that there was definitely other things. Um, but uh, that's when we started having these conversations. And as my frequency naturally rose, um, it would irritate the demons he had left in him, and I didn't know what was really going on. I didn't see it from that perspective, so I would just get so angry as to why he didn't understand, and that's why I thought it would be easier to leave. And there was one day where I looked right at him, and we went out for his birthday, and he was drinking, and I was not, and that was still fine. There was no judgment there, but his demons came out that night, and I sat in front of the door, didn't let him leave, so he wouldn't get a DUI, and looked at him in the morning, and I go, I love you so much, but I love myself more, and I'm choosing me. And I know you've never heard that from me in all these years because I've been codependent on you to know who I am. And this is as hard for me to say, reliving it right now, as I said when I said it to him back then. And it was the first time ever, because he was always apologetic when something came up, always. He was 99% amazing all the time. Nobody would have even known this side of him existed because I didn't want to share it with anybody. It was embarrassing, right? And he, instead of just apologizing, he's like, what do I have to do? And he's like, guide me. I'm ready to go. And from that moment, he did. And there's actually a really cool story that goes along with it. I was a heavy meditator. So I have a shirt that says heavily meditated because in the beginning of this, I would be in meditation 2 to 3 hours a day. Like it was my morning, it was my midday lunch, it was my evening. There was some talk between me and Jeremy about like, you're getting lost in this. Your escapism is through your meditation. But I was getting such clear channels of what was going on that maybe that was true, but it felt so good that I couldn't not do it. Like no matter what, I was doing it. One time our cleaning people were at our house and I did it in the back seat of our SUV and put on my eye mask and was meditating back there. And I read a book and it was called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And in that book, that's actually Vishen Lakhiani, who runs Mind Valley. And in that book, he talks about running a study with meditation. And they were in these meditative cubes or pods. And in the pod, they were measuring their brainwaves while they were meditating. And there was this one woman who was getting these results that were like off the charts. Like she was like a Tibetan monk. And they were like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I was just forgiving my stupid ex-husband. And they were like, whoa, there's something to that then. So they all switched that next day and they all switched to forgiving someone. And their brainwaves like completely went off the charts too. And the craziest part is this was a multi-day thing. They started getting phone calls from these people that they were forgiving that they hadn't talked to in months or years. And it was like this constant thing. And so that hooked me, right? It's like, how are we interconnected like this? And so I told Jeremy about this. And so I said, the first step I want you to do is I want you to forgive your dad because I know that's what's living in you. And I know that's part of what you need to heal. And he's like, okay. So he went through and did this process. And I don't know how long it took him. It's kind of like the Ho'oponopono and like where you're saying sorry to the person who hurt you. And it's a really difficult thing to do. So it takes time. I'll have to ask him how long it took him to complete it. But we were walking in one day with groceries. And he goes, Kristin, my dad wants me to stop by the office tomorrow. And I dropped my groceries on the phone and turned around. He hadn't talked to his dad in 3 years before he did this meditation. 3 full years, we were no contact. And his dad reached out and wanted to get together because Jeremy crossed his mind. And I'm like, and he's looking at the ground and I go, what? And he's like, this is why I didn't want to tell you. He's like, you were right. And I was like, and that was like the beginning of the journey for Jeremy. Yeah.
The goosebumps that I have from head to toe, that just proves the quantum field. Like, have you ever like, oh, I was just thinking of you and that person calls, like, or you run into them at the grocery store. Like, it's because we're quantumly creating. Like, this is where the quantum realm is insane, right? And again, even though you have changed mics again, like your audio is still just crazy because I'm like, your frequency is so high and I don't really care. I'm just going to keep going because I really feel like that this message just needs to be heard in its true authenticity for how it is in the first cut, because the fact that I started doing the Ho'oponopono, right? I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I say that to the world. And so for those of you who don't know this, it's a Hawaiian like chant or mantra. And there was a study where this psychologist went outside of a mental institution, and he said this, and he was chanting this over and over, and he was saying it to the people who were inside, who were heavily medicated, sedated, and were just like not in their right mind, quote unquote. And then they started healing, and then they would go outside. And like these people started actually having true healing by him sending the frequency directed at this population of "I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you." He had done nothing wrong to those people. It didn't matter. You were going into the consciousness of the creator of the oneness that we all are. And so when I heal, you heal. When you heal, I heal. And when we heal, we rise. That's what I always say on my podcast or on my TikTok, because it's just so true. And the fact that Jeremy's dad could feel that pull energetically. And he's like, "Hey, let's see each other, or let's talk." Now, what did it start to like evolve in your marriage and your children, that mom is now different? Because I know that's how my house was. Mom is now different. Like mom didn't really talk about God, creator, universe before. Now all of a sudden it's all I can talk about. I'm like ADHD squirrel for spirituality. Is that kind of how it started for you? Because like what happens in the household when one person wakes up?
That's another great question because yeah, I questioned myself at some point. I'm like, am I going to talk about this every day now? Because I would wake up and start talking about it. I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. And I was like checking myself. And then I'm like, yep, this is what I'm going to do every day now. This is just who I am
Mhm.
now. And that's okay. And then it started unlocking things within my children. And my oldest is what we term in this world like a star child, and he is so special, and we've always known his frequency is different from the time he was born. But going to Disney, like a cast member would jump out from behind a booth and be like, "Hey, little boy, do you want a free ice cream?" And at Disney, like that's unheard of. So my husband would be like, "What the heck?" And like that's what he would do. He's like this instant manifester, and there's some really cool stuff going on with that I'd love to get into too. But so it was easy with him. He actually helps me stay grounded with this in a weird way. Like, cause I'd be like, "I know I'm so weird. I know I'm so weird." And he's like, "No, this is not weird. This is normal." And he
Oh,
would remind me that how I am is okay and normal. And so I think that helped my husband be okay with it. And now, I mean, he's full on board with it. Now he's seen too much to go any other way. But one of my twins is, Blake is the boy. He is more skeptical. But as I started doing energy work, he allowed me to do that because he saw that everybody else would get their headache cleared or whatever. And he let me try. And one time I heard him like, "My mom is so weird," like in his head. "But why is it working?" And so I repeated it to him. I'm like, "Oh, you think I'm weird, but at least it's working." And he's like, "How did you know I said that?" And I was like, "I heard you." And he's like at that moment. So now he asks for a Reiki all the time. He asks for clearing all the time. So there's some trust. There's still some things that I'll say that he'll be like, "Okay, I can get on board with that, but I'm not going there." And I'm like, "Cool, you don't have to." Like that's the cool part. You're on your own journey. Nothing I say you have to agree with. And like that's like the cool full circle because in the beginning, ego wanted to be like, "I'm right." And like, as I let my ego die, it doesn't matter. I don't know anything. And that's like my theme now is like, I don't know anything about anything. I just know that I've been lied to about a bunch of stuff and some of it could still be wrong. Right. And like, I'm open to learning as new information comes in.
I
So
think that's so cool too, because it's like in my own household, Cole was very much like my husband was very much like not he was very agnostic. Like I don't really know what I believe, if anything at all. Hoped that there was something, but not quite sure. And then as I woke up, like in an instant, life was very different. And he started letting me work on him too energetically. And one time he had anxiety, which he didn't really ever experience before. And I had just gotten Reiki 2 certified. And so I was like, just can I put hands on you and can I start working on you? And he's like, please, like, nothing else is helping. I'm like, okay, cool. We're sitting out by a pond in a lake and I put my hands and I start pulling the energy. And he is like, he goes, I felt the anxiety leave my chest in a second. And I was like, yeah, like I'm pulling out the density and I'm filling it with light. And I'm like, it's not me. Like I'm a conduit of energy. And I think that that's what the coolest thing is that when you fully wake you're embodied. Like it's not this egotistical thing of like, I'm a hero, I'm a healer, I'm a miracle worker, I'm this. No, I'm a conduit of healing. I hold a certain vibrational frequency that then can get spread to other people and I ripple out into my environment. And then if you believe the energy work can help you, then it will. If you are closed off and you don't believe it's going to help, then of course it's not. This is like even in the placebo effect, right? And so it's so cool to watch people transform around you when you are the weird one, the woo woo one. You're like, oh, there goes Kristen and Amber being woo woo. And I'm like, just call me the woo woo wonders from this point on. Like, we're just going to go change the world together. If it helps you, it helps you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's okay. But more often than not, I would say like that when we set our intentions and we know that we are vibrational beings of light, and people can sit with that and they can hold that frequency with us, then they experience a healing and it kind of makes them a believer too. Would you say that's how you've experienced it?
Spot on, because they can't help but wanna drink the Kool-Aid, if you will, because it's magical, and, but exact same thing, conduit of healing is what I use versus healer, because I don't think it's mine. I think I'm lucky enough to be tapped into the consciousness that allows this to occur, and the outcomes I've gotten are great, and to be honest, you're one of the first people that I put hands on, and where you're like, "What are you doing? It feels really good. Don't stop." And I didn't even know what I was doing. I wasn't certified in anything, but that made me question. And then I got home and I was like, "Can I put my hands on you? Can I put my hands on you?" And I did it to my best friend in the 3D life. And she was like, "Whoa," and got pushed back. And her phone or her watch stopped working. And she was like, "You better be careful. That was really expensive." Like she was not happy. And I was like, I didn't even think about that before I laid hands, right? But we're electromagnetic and we're pushing this electromagnetic field and consciousness into these other people so we can clear them of their density. And I think that's super cool. And I think I actually mentioned it to you and worth mentioning here. Like our progression from where this started to where we are today was like this slow crawl. And like spirit keeps telling me, like, you crawled so this next group of awakened people can run. And like, don't be jealous that they're going to get to where you are in an instant, that it took you all this time. Like you laid that groundwork. And so I actually am really proud of that. And I hope that people can have an easier time than me and you did.
Yeah. I honestly deeply resonate with that because when we talked about it yesterday, you're like, there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, do I feel jealous that people don't get to experience the deep, deep sorrow and prolonged healing that we had? But then I'm like, no, I don't want anyone to suffer that way. I want people to be healed as quickly as possible so they can rise as quickly as possible. Because the more souls that are up at this level of high vibrational frequency of love, authenticity, and kindness and compassion, the faster we elevate and create the new earth. And I'm like, come on, guys, let's just come on. That's why
Let's
I'm doing
go.
this podcast. I'm doing this podcast. I'm like, it's really like out there for me. Like I'm a CEO, I own my own company and I am an occupational therapist. I'm doing my own thing over here. And then I'm like, I guess I'm going to go start a podcast because spirit told me I should. And then I put it into the universe and then y'all are like, yes, yes, I want to be on. I want to share my story. And I think this is why we're talking about this is my whole goal is to destigmatize a spiritual awakening and people making us feel like we're crazy or whatever. Like, I just don't care anymore. Like, I just don't care if anyone thinks negatively about me because it's not my business what anyone thinks about me. And the work that we do is so pure and beautiful. And like how you said, how that we've transformed to get here. Like a year ago, Kristen, we met. A year and 3 months ago, we met in Utah because
Yeah.
TikTok. So I kind of want to jump in to that because you just said how I was one of the first people that you laid hands on. And now you're working on so many incredible souls and helping so many people. So let's talk a little bit about how you get to Salt Lake City, Utah in 2024.
So, how did I get to Salt Lake? So, I found TikTok during 2020 during COVID. So, the
Okay.
world shut down. We're at home. My job's now at home and I'm bored. And it's like, oh, here's this fun new dancing app. And I watch people dance and sing and make skits and all the things. And then my awakening started to happen. And all of a sudden, my algorithm started to change. And so I would see some things that were more on the mindset or how to change how you feel and take accountability for how you feel for yourself. And it started molding over time. And so as I'd read a new book and then I would like certain things, that algorithm kept changing and changing. And then one day, Miss Ashley came across my screen and help me out here because my brain is.
Ashley, your spiritual bestie.
Thank you. Uh, my spiritual bestie, Ashley, came across the screen and she was me. Like I was looking into a mirror and all the things. She was a paralegal. I used to be a paralegal. And she had kids and she was a wife and she was just raw. So, stuff I couldn't talk about outside my tiny little circle, she was talking about. And I was like, who is this person that went through what I did? And I sent her this message and I was like, I don't know who you are, but I remember you
Mhm.
and I need to talk to you and I need to know more about you. And she responded and she's like, I have this retreat coming up that I'm hosting and all the things. And I was like, I have to be there. And I told my husband, I'm like, I have to be there. And he's like, go, go see what it's about. And we were just baby spiritualists at that time. Like I hadn't even been deep in this shadow work yet.
And that's how I literally found Ashley on TikTok too. That's how I ended up with you in Utah because she's the exact connection, I think, for all of us, right? Everyone found Ashley, which we go follow Ashley, your spiritual bestie on TikTok right this second. You'll never regret your life choices. The kindness and the authenticity that that woman possesses. And she's so pure hearted. Like she made me feel so seen and safe. And we were perfect strangers. Like I didn't know anybody. I didn't know you. I'd never seen your name. I knew Brittany Renee, like I'd seen her, but nobody else. Like I hadn't followed anybody else. I wasn't aware of anybody else. And so going to Utah was like, I know Ashley and she's also a stranger, but I'm going to trust fall and I'm going to go. And I financed a plane ticket and then I showed up and then I saw you and I was like, hi, bestie, I've missed you. How many lifetimes have we had together? And I just knew your soul right away. Like it was instantly, I was like, oh, I love you.
Yes.
It was so cool. It was the coolest thing ever.
It's so magical. And that weekend was like the pivot point of everything.
Mhm.
Um, because we went through all of the emotions. It was a roller coaster. All of the people who were there, we were all meant to be there. And then the things we experienced while we were there. And if you want to dive into that, we can. But it was a lot, but so beautiful. Like I remember us cuddling at the end of it, and I think I think that that was given to us by spirit. I think we pre-planned that meeting before we got here so we could help each other remember. And there were people who flared my demons there. And you mentioned Brittany, and I don't think she's afraid to know that she's a walking trigger. And in post now, I'm working with her in on a level I never thought we'd even touch. And she's like, I was a mirror for you. And that's why it frazzled you. And it was like learning that about myself, right? And who I actually was through all of these other women who all just went through something very similar to me. So I felt, like you said, not alone anymore. It's like, how are we all crazy across the country
Right.
together?
And we all just like found tribe and the way that like, yes, it might be intense to meet certain people. Like, I feel like I walked into the space and I was just like, I'm finally not alone. I was so open. And I always like joke when we go to the retreats. I'm like, I think I'm like a golden retriever. Like, I'm just jumping
Hi.
out and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so happy. I'm not alone anymore. And it's just like the more I'm in that energy, I feel so safe to be the real me. And it's like, I just feel like I finally came alive after Utah and then after Indianapolis this year. And then we have so many more that we're going to do and just like go around healing people and women across the country and the world one day. And I've never told the story of what has happened. I've never, ever publicly told the story of what happened in Utah. We joke about it and we talk about it in our little spiritual bestie group because every person that was in the room has a different perspective and experience of that. And I don't think I'm afraid anymore, especially because I'm sitting in your energy and I'm with you. And I know that I'm protected and that this is true. Like, this is a true story about what happened. There was no way that one could fake what happened. So, Kristin, let's go ahead and share how you knew that darkness was real and and how that manifested for the whole group of like 8 women who were in that space that day.
And feel free to like stop me at any point and put your perspective in, because again, each one of us saw it from a different angle. But we were literally just in one of the living rooms in the Airbnb, and we pulled out our journals, and we were going to write down where we were and where we wanted to be. And one of the girls was just agitated, and I don't want to go into her story too much because we don't have her permission to do that. But she did ask to sage, and we saged. Brittany actually went around and saged each person and then put the sage down on a cup on the table. And then we all kind of went back to what we were doing. And fast forward, the sage starts smoking like a lot. And I'm looking at it because I sage all the time. And I'm like, what is that? Is it supposed to be doing that? And I kind of make eye contact with Brittany, and it starts to like light itself on fire, and it's fully poofing smoke. And I'm like, yeah, that's not normal. And like, I'm watching her for how she's going to move. And we end up doing some energy work on one of the women that were there that asked for the sage. And she had some darkness within her. And so as we were pulling that off, Brittany was leading. She's done this. It was kind of her forte. The rest of us were all newbies, just watching it I think some of us were in disbelief. We didn't know what to do. So we were just trying to do whatever we were guided to. So for me, it was putting hands on head and shoulder. And as they were pulling, I felt like I was pushing light in, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And while that was happening, Amber is down helping at the other end, down by the feet. And I look up and I'm watching her, and I kid you not, it's like somebody grabbed her by the clothes and pulled her. So we were on a sectional, and she pulled backwards. The whole couch flew into the kitchen area. And I just stopped because I did not know what I was witnessing. Brittany, and luckily who we were working on was done with needing energy work. She was coming back too. And Brittany went to go help Amber. And I don't know what you experienced in that moment, but for us, it was Amber was no longer with us. Your vessel was there, but something else had taken control and was speaking through you. And it was the first dark that I've like seen. But I was not scared. There was like no fear. I didn't want to run. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to understand. So I was watching Brittany do what Brittany does best. And she was right there holding you and calling in all of her guides and angels and ascended masters to get this entity that was attached to you off of you. And there was a couple times where I was very worried about you, because if you were making this up, you would have split your own head open on the table. Like you were this close to a concrete table, and she was able to grab you. And then she was guiding us on what to do. And so she's like, I know you don't know what you're doing, but I see it. She's like, you need to hold up this emerald wall. Like, I'm going to create a portal to get rid of this. Just hold it. And so I'm standing there just watching her, having no idea what I'm doing. And I watch it get pulled, and you come back to life, and she gets rid of it, and we all literally go back to laughing, and the sage quiets down. There's like this much of the sage full stick left, and we're all now laughing because how many of us were there? I can't even remember.
7 or 8.
And one person answered the door during all of this because somebody came about the garbage cans, and she was like, I was just going to tell him we were all acting, and like cut, like end scene. And I'm like, best supporting actor goes to the sage, because
It
how do you make
exploded.
that up? Yes. And so I knew in that moment that everything I thought wasn't completely correct, and that I needed to understand it more.
Yeah. And then just like I started vibrating, just like hearing you tell that story from your perspective. And like my perspective was that I was working on our friend, and I was like, I've not yet Reiki trained, but I was like pulling out energy. I was intuitively doing whatever. I think all of us intuitively know what to do. We just like have the block of not remembering. But I started doing it, and I remember pulling and getting rid of it. And it was like really dark stuff in the womb space. And all of a sudden it felt like it was on me. And then you see my arm like fly back, and then you see that the couch literally split open. Like it was one of the couches that hooked together, and then it split, and the couch flies backwards into the kitchen. My head flies forward and almost hits the corner of this concrete marble table. Like I really almost like split my head open. And the stage explodes. Like I see the stage like spark and explode, and which is just insane. And then all of a sudden I'm on the floor. I've never told this story. My heart's racing.
You're
Not public.
good.
Um, I'm safe. And I just remember being really scared all of a sudden because it was like, I've experienced this before. So, like, that's again something I've not really shared publicly is that my husband and my children have seen several dark entities that have attached to me. And it's been a very frightening experience that I had no control over, that we had to work through privately. And I had help from other people that were very powerful healers in the past. But like, I didn't really tell anybody openly. I think on Friday night when we first got there, I had mentioned that I'd had something happen. And Brittany was like, oh, okay. Like it triggered her that something might come up. And so I don't know if it was that person's darkness, my darkness mixed with that person's, or just like the overall darkness. But like all you can say it was a dark entity because Brittany saw it and it was like 10-foot tall, dark entity in the corner. And you can believe that or not. It's not something that I care about if you believe me anymore. Um, and I'm on the ground and I'm like arching up and then falling down and then arching up and falling down. It's like going almost into like a Christed position, right? And just like, oh, and like falling. And then Brittany's sitting on top of me and she says, find the pillar of light inside. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? And she's like, find the light. And it was like a pinhole. Like I couldn't see any light. And I was like, okay, I found it. She's like, hold it. I've got you. And then she's doing and calling on everything. And she's speaking in her beautiful light language and all the she's like a shaman, right? Like the work that she does is like shamanic work. And she was calling on Yeshua, Jesus. She was calling on everybody that she could have light. And then she was calling on the dark goddesses. And I was like, holy cow, like this is something. And she's like, I've got you. And I just remember crying and it hurt so bad. Like it felt like my whole body wanted to split open. It hurt. I think that's like the thing I really will never forget was how bad it hurt. And then at one point she pulled it out of me, or I lean up and I look at Brittany and I say in a really dark voice, you can't have her. And she was like hell I can't, right? And then she throws everything she can. She throws it across the room. And then I go up and then I slam my head on the ground. And God, that hurt. And I'm just crying and weeping. And all of a sudden, like she does her magic and pushes it away, whatever. And then I just look up, I come back to, and I'm crying and I look up and I'm like, I was embarrassed. Like it came out of nowhere. We were literally journaling and doing drums beforehand. And then all of a sudden this happened. And I'm like, did it happen so that we could all just activate our gifts? Did it happen so that we could all know our power in that moment? Like, why did it have to happen that way? Why me? Like I'm such a light, happy person, but I did have a lot of darkness in me for my whole life. And I had a lot of hard things happen to me. And so just to see that darkness get expunged, whatever you want to call it, from my body. And then to see everyone afterwards, like looking left, looking right, and being like, what the heck just happened? And then Brittany plays This Is What We Came For. And we were just like, this is what we came for, dancing it all out like hippies and just living our best life after. It's like, how did that contrast of that crazy dark thing now be complete light, and how we transmuted that fear into love? And then it would go to the next person. Ashley was next. And it was just like, and it wasn't the same kind of darkness, but it was overwhelming emotion. And it was just, this is what we're here for. We're here to
Yes.
tell our truth. And we're here to clear out darkness. That's why we're here.
And you said that so beautifully, but there's this step in there that you guys were so depleted. So the first person we worked on, and then it was like this depletion after the darkness was pulled. And that's where I realized my forte came in, was that like either I went head to head or had hands on, and both you and the other woman both said, you feel like you're filling me back up.
Mhm.
And so it felt like I was transferring light back in. And that's how you just stood up and were full again. Like you just went from like this depleted person with an entity, like to I'm back and now I can go dance. And that's when I was like, okay, there's something here. And so I did end up sitting with Brittany for a while, and she said that we have the same code. So she reads our light bodies and can see our coding and what we're here for. And she's like, me and you have a lot of the same codes. And I looked at her and I was like, oh no, does this mean I have to do this stuff? And she goes, Yeah, probably. And I was like, cool. I'm sure I signed up for this somewhere along the line. Not what I thought, not what 3D Kristen thought she'd ever be doing.
And
And
then no,
yeah,
and the next day I was like, my legs gave out, like something happened. I can't remember. I was just
I
laying
came
down.
down the stairs and you were just laying at the bottom of the stairs.
I didn't by myself, like, I have
Yeah.
no idea, and I like, my legs didn't wanna walk or something, like, I was really shaky, and then you're like, "Can I put my hands on you?" I was like at this point, we all felt so close, I was like, "Yeah, sure, do whatever you gotta do," and you did, and it was literally like filling up your gasoline or like the, electric vehicle, just like plugging it in, and I was like, "Vroom," and I could feel it coming all the way up my legs, and it was like hot, warm love energy, and then I think I just, like, stood up and I was like, "Alright, I'm ready to go." And it
That's
was
what I remember
crazy,
too.
but that's what people keep experiencing with you too. Like, you've worked with numerous people after you taught. Like, it was finally like that spark that you needed of like, this is why I'm here. I now am not afraid of my gifts. I remember who I am. We had all had a remembrance that weekend that is undeniable that you cannot ever take back. How did you then go back into your real world and start to integrate the energy of the healing and then also your gifts and start practicing?
Yeah. I don't actually like fully remember that whole progress, but I knew I had to get a certification because the only way people would buy in is if I had a piece of paper. So I went and got Reiki certified and I knew what I was doing was not Reiki. So actually one of my best friends is also a Reiki master and I practiced on him and he was giving me all this feedback and he's like, it's more gentle. And I'm like, Kurt, I'm telling you, I'm not doing what I was taught, and I know that because it's like I have this, I call it my walkie-talkie in my ear, and it's like, "Go here, do this, pull this, do that," and I'm like it's like out of body experience. So when I work on somebody even remotely, and I've had some really good experiences with people I never thought I would be doing energy work with, even within corporate America,
Mhm.
and them getting results in a different state, and they have no other reason but to say it has to be something here. I knew that like I just needed to trust what was coming through. And I don't see like other people describe seeing like through the third eye, but it's like this knowing and this feeling where if I was working on somebody's hand and they had issues with their fingers, like it kind of like maps me their body. And so I go up their arm and then they show me the shoulder and where I'm blasting light into their shoulder and then up through their neck and the opposite side of their hand because of, so it's like I know all this anatomy that I'm not supposed to know. I worked on a runner and they were like, okay, now you're going to blast your fascia with light. And I'm like, what the hell is fascia? Like, cause I am not this person. And so I told her this in post and she's crying because all this other stuff came through. She's like, I did not know this was going to be this type of session. And she's like, yeah, fascia's big with the runners. And I was like, okay. Like, so it's like, it was like learning as I went and then learning to trust what was coming through.
And the thing that's so beautiful is that fascia is plasma essentially. Like, it's this fourth state
Yeah.
of
I
it's
know
not
now.
solid, it's not really a liquid, it's plasma. And then everything is made of plasma. It's what we all come from, right? And when you think of being an eternal being of light and you're like, "Well, what does that mean?" I'm like, "Well, we're plasma light bodies inside of a physical human body so that we can experience emotions and sensations," right? And as an occupational therapist, I do sensory integration. I'm like, "Okay, you've got the five senses." But I'm like, there's actually, proprioception. There's vestibular input, which is your sense of movement and where you are. Proprioception is your sense of your body awareness. And then you have interoception, which is your internal state of being, your hurt, your thirst, your hunger, your needing to go to the bathroom, like all your emotions. That's interoception. And then I'm like, what if humans just didn't know those words? Like, most people just think you have the normal five senses. I'm like, well, those senses exist. I work with them every single day. Did you also know that there's clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, and clairvoyance? Did you know that those are also senses that you have? And we've been so closed off to it and made to feel like it's quackery and it's just woo woo voodoo magic. And I'm like, this is real. And before like the 1930s and stuff, people measured vibrational frequency. Look at old civilizations. Like, everything is harmonic resonance. Like, these ancient civilizations and cultures that have like sacred geometry and constellation alignment with Orion and everything, like, they knew. They knew. In cathedrals, those were healing centers. Like, everything that you have the Fibonacci spiral, you've got solfeggio frequencies. I work with tuning forks. I work with frequencies. And I'm like, I see them changing people's state of being When I play
Yep.
432 hertz for my patients, I see their bodies physically calm because of the plasma in our body, because we are water beings and you can recalibrate with water. And it's like, oh my gosh, it has just changed everything about how I move through the world. Would you say that, like, after Utah and then going back into your real world and applying these things that you're learning and practicing, like, there's no going back? There's no going back.
And I brought it into my 3D world. So I was so obsessed with frequency. I wish I had it closer by, but I have a chi coil, it's called. And there are these coils that you hold in your hands that attached to this machine that emits frequency, and you pick your frequency based on different ailments, different things. They work with I should actually know this off the top of my head, but there was a doctor who did this, and he has a whole list of these different frequencies. And so you can tap into those as well. And so we were using it around the house for everything. And then there were abundance ones. So I'd have frequencies playing next to me, or I'd hold them, or I'd do them before a big meeting. So for anxiety and all the things. But then I started taking it to work and showing other people, because people at work were like, what are you doing? So if I
Mhm,
showed you a picture of me 5 years ago to now, I don't look like the same person.
mhm.
I don't act like the same person. My anxiety was crippling. I was medicated for it for a while. And now I am in meetings with the CEO presenting on my ideas. Now I'm with all of the C-suite. I'm going up to board member level, like knowing who I am and not being afraid of being wrong. And how did I go from this everything I say is wrong, like I can't speak up, I'm quiet, to here, this is me and here are all my ideas. And I know they're not all great, but at least one will probably hit somewhere along the lines. And I ended up winning all these awards at work, and I was flown to New York and won a national award. And it was just this snowball that was like, it's out of control now, but I love it. Like it's the best.
I'm just so excited because I feel like the more people hear us talk, and we're just like two friends who met at a Airbnb in Utah, who then got activated spiritually and then went back into our own little microcosms and started doing the healing work, and then seeing the results, and then our own children and our own husbands and our own friends started seeing it. Like, that whole mantra, like, seeing is believing. You can't see energy. And I always use this because I think it's just such an easy example, is that you can't see Wi-Fi, but you believe Wi-Fi works. You can't
Hmm.
energy, but energy is still present. You can feel when there's like tension in a room, right? You can cut it with a knife. That's all. These phrases are there for a reason. We just don't vibe. Well, why don't you vibe? Because you're vibrating at a different frequency. Oh, he's got good vibes, she's got bad vibes. Because you can sense something, right? And so if you can just for a second, like, put aside, okay, I'm an atheist, or I don't believe in spirituality, I don't believe in religion. This is not what this is about. It is just oneness. This is like where quantum science is meeting spirituality, and this is just truth. And there's been a lot that's been hidden from us for a really, really long time for a very specific purpose. And when you can understand that we do live in like a matrix, it's like a fear matrix of lowering your vibrational frequency, of look at the news and everything is just bad news, bad news, bad news. And like all these things that are out there that are distracting you, the entertainment, the news, politics, religion, all these things are polarizing and divisive. Like, that's not how we're supposed to operate. Go into any community and you will find unity, right? Like, you will find people who can love others unconditionally. And this is so funny. I went to a farmer's market last weekend and I saw my husband get changed in a moment. And I was like, what is this farmer's market doing to you? And he's like, and we just stumbled into it. It's like one of those things, like, if you want a different reality, do something different. We just woke up on a Saturday morning and went to go get a coffee. And he's like, I'm going to go turn right over here. And then we stumbled into our beautiful Tomball farmer's market. And it was just like, oh my God, my community is so beautiful. Why do I not know this? Like, how have I not been over here on a Saturday before? I've lived here for 13 years. And all of a sudden, he sees people who are cooking, amazing barbecue. You've got amazing Scottish food. You've got incredibly fresh grown eggs and microgreens and herbs and this and that. And I'm like, holy crap, we could totally take care of each other. And it's like no chemicals, no junk, no poison. Like, everyone has this all over. And I'm like, yeah, this is just what happens when you grow your own food. Is you don't have to over process food. You don't have to put poisons in the food.
Yes.
And I'm like, he was sitting on the bench and he was just looking around at the kids playing in the water. And he was like, this is what makes America great. And I said, this is what makes America great, honey. We are a community and we love each other. Inherently, we love each other. We are neighbors, but it's like we just feel so isolated because we're in little boxes all day long. And it doesn't have to be that way. And this is what like TikTok has done is it's taken you, even if you're in your little box, it takes you out of the little box and you can meet people like you and Ashley and Brittany, who I would never have met because you're in different states. I'm in Texas, you're in Wisconsin, she's in Indianapolis, she's in Utah. I'm like, I would have never been able to meet you without TikTok. And so I just think that we created TikTok, our higher selves did. We're like, we're gonna meet together and we're gonna call it an app.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we did. That's how like, that's the crux of it all, and it's funny with my son and his magical gifts and the soul family that's falling into his life with my husband, like, they do it on Fortnite. I'm like, "I think you guys sat up there and, like, designed Fortnite because, like, there are so many," and it's like thing after thing. There's portals here and aliens here and this, that, like, it's like all the things, and you covered so many things in that last couple sentences, but I grew up Catholic, so I went to Catholic school and Catholic high school and almost went to Catholic college, but then wanted to move away, so ended up going to public college. And I always questioned things, but I loved the community. So it wasn't that church was bad or the people were bad. The priest, our priest was not bad. I think what happens is that it's the stuff comes from this top that we don't realize, and that the people who join do it out of such a good place and wanting community and wanting that love, and then it gets jumbled along the way. And so like I see that for what it is now, but the community, the hot ham and rolls on Sunday, all of those things are just lovely and we do all want it. And I've realized through this journey that everything we believe about other people is just a program, and they want us programmed to believe that other people are bad. The whole
Mhm.
system is set up so those people have it hard, so then they have to do bad things in order to survive. It's almost like in Aladdin, like, gotta, eat to live, gotta steal to eat. Like, what do you expect them to do? And then they make it seem like we don't have enough, so we can't. And I think
As
that's the
they're throwing
biggest
food
lie.
away. As they're
Yeah.
throwing food away at the end of the day instead of donating it to a homeless shelter, right? Like,
Yes.
what are we doing as a country or as a society? Like, we could do so much better.
And that's the
So
thing, even with the churches too, like, they're empty buildings, and but there are people still sleeping on the street. So what are we really here to do? And I think that's the change we're gonna have, in the future and impact, yeah.
So now that we're like, we kind of laid down the framework of what a spiritual awakening is, what it's like to activate your gifts, and how you go out into the community and like spread your gifts. What is our goal as light workers in this life? Like, why did we come here? Why do spiritually awakened people need to like learn more about who they really are for us to have our bigger purpose? Like, what have you been told from your guides from spirit of what we create next? Because I don't
Eh
think a lot of people know about it.
So I think that this is like an evolving journey for me because I thought I wanted all the knowledge, like tell me or show me it all. And then something happened. I was on vacation and I started seeing the black shadows and I was like, oh, that's scary. Like, yep, I'm not ready. And then they kind of laugh at me, like, see, like you want to take this in bites, right? So where I'm evolving to now is that I really do think that this was created by us, all of it, all the good, bad, and ugly by us as souls for our evolution, and that we knew that we could beat the game and that we've tried before and we haven't been successful, but we keep coming back knowing that one time we're going to get this right. And it really does equate to my husband and kids playing Fortnite because they will play and they will be like, "Oh, I got killed by this guy or this thing happened and oh," but they want to jump right back in. So
Mhm.
that character playing that game is not like, "I'm having the best time getting shot up." Like, "This is not fun for me. Why am I back here again?" But it's like, because the person outside the character knows what's up. And so I've learned to fully trust that level of myself. I used to say higher self, I say highest self now. And it almost equates to corporate America. I work in innovation and I like to say that I have like this 30,000-foot view. And so I see the whole company like a game board and how all the different silos interconnect, where somebody in underwriting only focuses on underwriting because that's where their metrics come from, and they don't really care about how claims works or billing works. But I see how it's like this well-oiled machine if all of the pieces are playing well. Kristen, as the character in this game, can't see that view, and so I just think things are happening to me, and I think I get to make choices. My highest self comes in and tells me, hey, I can see the game board. If you
Mhm.
just listen, like, we can take the easier path now. You don't have to take those detours, because I'm always going to end up back on the path where I belong. It's just how many detours do I take along the way thinking I have control. So my word of last year that has bled into this year was surrender. And it was very hard because as a human, you want to think you have all of this control. And I'm like, I have none. And I'm really okay with that now, because when you surrender fully, the magic that happens is insane. The people that drop in, it's magic. And I hate talking about it to people who are going through the thick of it, because I remember being in the thick of it. And I think me and you have had this conversation before, um, of where I got to be at some points, and you're like, well, why am I still experiencing
Mhm.
this? Like, am I being punished? And it's not that. It's that your soul is still signed up for all the experiences it didn't have yet, right? So like,
Mhm.
you get to these magic levels through this beautiful progression. And so I still think that there'll be things that will probably shock me, and I'll be like, why? But it'll be how quickly I come back to that center saying, oh wait, this is for me. It's not to me. Like, I picked this.
And I think that's so beautiful too, because when you finally realize that you're not being punished, you're being polished. And you're like,
Mm.
I'm learning, I'm growing. I came here to have my soul expand. I came here to give consciousness, the creator, more information, more experiences, more sensations, right? Because creation loves to create. It loves curiosity, right? Loves joy. But it's the breadth of emotions that we humans came to earth to feel. And so I was doing an energy session earlier, and oh, I know we're going to work miracles on this person. I just know we are. And I was explaining to her because she was talking about being like looped. And I was like, I think a lot of times we just think we're going in a circle and you're just like, okay, I'm back. Why am I on this circle? But you're not. But like, let's just say you have a trigger point over here and it's like an X, or it's a pattern of behavior that you keep doing. You're like, oh my God, how am I back here again? Well, you're just like, you're not going in a flat plane of a circle. You're rising up a spiral and you're getting further and further away from it, but you have to revisit it to be like, oh, are you going to get triggered? Are you going to get triggered? Or do you believe? Do you trust? You're going to surrender? Like, huh? It's like spirit's like, when will you believe you're going to get it again? And when it comes back around, are you going to be like, I know this is for my highest good. I know that this is for my soul's elevation. Or am I going to be afraid again? Because what I get told by spirit is that there's nothing to fear. Fear no thing. Fear no person, place, or thing ever. And that is so easy to say. It is so hard to put into practice because you and I have both been triggered by different things. Like it might be a money lack, it might be a circumstance or whatever. And you're just like, but this is really real, Kristen. Like, this is really real. And you're like, no, I know it's real, but it's for your highest good. I'm like, how is this my highest good? And you're just like, you can't see it sometimes when you're in it. But then when you come back around that corner and you're like, oh, okay, it didn't last as long. It
Oh
might have
yeah.
lasted 45 minutes versus 10 days, right? And you're like, well, there was a little piece of the onion layer that I still needed to heal. Thank you, Spirit, for giving me that opportunity to heal. Like, you just change your perspective on it, but you're always rising. You're not stagnant. Even if it feels like really micro, maybe it's like a really micro level, but you're still rising up. And I just think that has given me so much freedom and forgiveness for myself when I come back to the pattern and I feel like I get pulled down a little bit. I see that I'm moving faster through it. And
So fast.
you've been such an anchor point for me. You have your high vibrational state and the way that you're moving through life and your soul's purpose has been such a guiding system for me and a lot of the other spiritual besties. Is like we turn to you and some of the other ones of like, help me recalibrate, please, because I know that this is not wrong, but it feels really bad in my body. And we're just learning and we're healing and we're growing and expanding.
Yep.
And
I love that. See, and like, so I think what we were saying before we picked up the recording again was that I as we were rapping about how hard spiritual awakening is in the beginning, it's talking about magic is like really hard because somebody going through the beginning stages isn't feeling that yet. Like, this did not feel like magic in the beginning. This felt horrible. Some like I was alone in my bathroom just bawling and snot and a mess and like didn't understand who I was or what life was or why I was even here anymore. And like I thought I was a terrible mom and a terrible wife and all the things. And
Mhm.
but once you get through it and you integrate it and then the magic starts happening, it's like everywhere. And then you can go in reverse and see all the things in your life that you just thought were part of your journey, how synchronistic they were. Like I have story after story after story before I was awakened now that I can see, I'm like, "Oh, that wasn't an accident." Like I was placed there and like I met this person on purpose.
Beautiful.
Like this was nothing was accidental.
It's so crazy. Like, even when I spent that time with you in Indianapolis, like, whew, I have never had so many synchronicities back to back to back to back, like, just even, like, the drive. And it was such a
Yes.
weird thing. I was like, "Why are we driving 4 hours? Like, why did we actually both do it?" Like, "Yeah, that totally sounds like an awesome thing to do." It was the fastest 4 hours of my life. It was the funnest 4 hours of my life. I was like, "Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god." I couldn't stop. I was like, "You're here. You've arrived. Graduation." And I'm like,
Well, where it started when you landed with the captain and the yellow jacket.
Yellow jacket, and then now
Ah,
how many yellow jacket synchronicities? And I was like, I'm in the garage, like, a few days ago, and I looked up and I was like, "Cole, there's a yellow jacket in our." When was the last time I saw, like, I always see red wasps, like, why is there a yellow jacket, a singular yellow jacket in my garage right now?
well, in
And I'm
case
like,
you use this, to clarify for the audience, she's waiting to get off the plane for me to pick her up, and she's like, "I can't get to my gate," and the captain gets on the microphone and is like, "There's some debris in front of the gate, so we have to wait. There's a yellow jacket, and that they should be able to clear that, and then we can pull in." And I'm like, "That is so oddly specific because 'cause I'm listening constantly now." And I'm like so I text my husband, I'm like, "There's a yellow jacket on the ground in front of her gate, so she's not there yet," because he was asking, like, where we were, whatever, and literally 5 minutes later, I get a text from Jeremy saying, "What the fuck?" And, like, my son had bought the yellow jacket pack on Fortnite, and he's like, "What are the chances?" I'm like, "There are none." Like, this is all and I don't fully know what any of it means. I can garner some of it, but, like, it means we're just so interconnected. It's showing how interconnected we are.
yeah, for sure. And I just think, like, something big is happening, something big is coming, and I'm like, "Okie dokie. I'm not sure what comes next, but here we go." And I don't know, man. I'm just so excited. I think that spirit is at work. And with everything that's happening right now with the telepathy tapes and how they're proving telepathy with these double blind experiment studies. And I talked to Austin Moore, which is just so funny because you got the ping for Austin yesterday. And I was like, I can't remember his first name. And I go and look and I'm like, Kristen, his name's Austin. And then to find out that Eileen's mentor is Austin Moore. And on Eileen's recorded, on her recording, her episode, we talked about her mentor and Recliff and all these things. And he was like, he was talking about it this morning on the phone call. And I was like, that's you? We talked a whole lot about you on the first podcast. He was like, "No way." He goes, "I thought she sent you to me." And I said, "No, I was already following you and then I was interested in what you were doing and you were both just letterboard therapists." And he was like, "No, she was like my mentee." And I was like, "My protege." And I was like, "Oh my God." And then he was on the documentary and the things that he told me, he was like, "It's going to change lives, Amber." He's like, It's irrefutable proof that we documented what happened." And I was like, all right, world, you better
Here
buckle up.
we go.
Here we go. Because, like, people have just dismissed this non-speaking autistic population or non-speakers for their whole lives. Like, there's nothing going on, or they don't have potential, or they shouldn't have a life worth living, or they should be institutionalized. I'm like, that's a person in there. And there's something called locked in syndrome. Have you ever heard of locked in syndrome before?
Oh,
So locked in syndrome is like a condition, neurological condition, kind of like if you had a stroke, but you're literally in there. There's a movie and a book called Butterfly and the Bell. Watch it, read it. Butterfly and the Bell has this gentleman who has this type of stroke or brain injury, and he's locked in his body. He's seeing everything going around. He's watching doctors move around. He hears every single thing. He cannot move his body and he cannot communicate. And he's completely consciously aware. And
wow.
like, I'm in here. And I think eventually, I think he wrote Butterfly and the Bell. And how he did it was almost through like Morse code. And he was using his finger or tapping to get to the letters. This was like something I had to read in grad school. And it just changed my life. And I just have always presumed competence. I've always looked at a child and been like, I know you're in there. But now that I'm awakened in this way, when I work with kids, I'm like, I tell them, I know you're in there. I know you have a lot to say and I'm listening. And then the way that they light up because they're like, finally, damn it, someone sees me. And, I just think that they've been talked about in front of them for so long, like, oh, he's never going to do this or he does this. And I'm like, he's a person and he can hear you. He can.
Yes.
And not only can he hear you, he's reading your thoughts.
Yes.
And so you can see, like, I see it every day that a kid who is really a tough one, who's got a lot of behaviors, when I think, man, I don't know what to do, I see the energy in him shift. Or like, you're having a bad day, like the kiddo can feel it. And so, I just think that's really something we're going to be changing our mind about pretty soon is what humans are capable of. And all these psi experiments, have you seen like the psi
Yes.
expo?
It's so amazing.
These psi schools that are happening across the world where these kids are just learning. It's like watching Stranger Things. And I'm like,
Yes.
this is real.
Yeah, they just didn't want us to know. But, like, I remember listening to telepathy tapes with you and, like, getting to the certain points and, like, what they're here to do and why they came the way they did and what they're going to teach us because we need teachers like this to make it digestible because this is going against all our programming. And one of the coolest things, so my husband's an IT guy, and so all of this I started to relate to IT and us just being giant computers. And so I was like, why do people freak out when you say something different than what they believe? And well, Jeremy's like, well, in a computer, that's kernel panic. And I'm like, explain, because I'd never heard that before. Kernel panic is when a computer shuts itself down to protect itself when it goes against the code. So when you put in new code that doesn't align with the old code, it freaks out and it wants to protect itself, so it just shuts itself down. So now when I look at somebody that freaks out when I come up with an idea or say something that's out of their programming, I don't even look at them as the person freaking out at me. I'm like that their programming just can't handle my new line of code yet, and that's okay.
They're
And
like
it
short
has
circuits.
yeah, and so people need this way to be able to digest it so they don't freak out and lose their minds over this, right? And what's really interesting there too is my husband's cousin is an adult nonverbal autistic and my unfortunately my mother-in-law's brother passed away a year ago and then his wife just passed away and she got custody of Tim. And I've talked to you about Tim. And I'm like, I don't know what it is yet, but I know this is happening for a reason because my mother in law is very open to the spiritual thing. I feel like we've had previous lives together. She wants to put hands on people all the time too. I'm like, do it. Like you can't do anything wrong. You're not going to mess anything up. And I know that Tim is part of this story. And the cool part is that I don't have to know how it ends. Like we get to watch this unfolding and like whatever it leads to is going to be so beautiful. And I know that because I wrote it. And I'm like, why would I write it bad? I wouldn't write it bad. I wrote it awesome.
Of course you would. Like, that's what I always tell Cole. I was like, I'm the writer, director, producer, and actor in my story. Why would I write myself a bad ending? I wouldn't. It's
Yeah.
going to be pretty fantabulous. Just buckle up. It's going to be great. And he's like, whatever you say, Amber. And it's like, I'm serious though. I feel like we're doing something that's never been done before, not in this age. And perhaps it's happened before, but it wasn't like this. And we're going to see the entire world wake up. And it's going to be bumpy for some, right? People who are not ready to do the work. That's a choice that they make. It's a fair choice. Make that choice for yourself. And I think you might come back around and make a different choice when your cycle comes back around. But I just am so excited for how all of this is going to play out. The Spiritual Bestie weekends, the podcast, just TikTok in general, all of us elevating our souls. Like I'm not worried one bit
There's
about
nothing to worry about.
everything is good.
Yeah.
Everything is always working out for my highest good. And you have just been so instrumental in that. Like, I don't know how I would have gotten through this last year. I thought I was doing great. I was like, I'm going to do fine. This last year, I was like, whoa, whoa. It
This
shook.
goes both ways. It's a two-way street. So I needed you as much as you needed me. And our whole group, it feels like sometimes I feel like I'm the mom, and these are like not like in an order of who's been awake in the longest, but like I want to make sure everybody's okay and taken care of. And like, because there's a lot, and with relationships and husbands and kids and jobs and all the things and real life, right? And just to bring them back to center. But yeah, it's like so freaking exciting now. Like we're to the good part. Like we went through it, and now we're here to shepherd other people across. Because I've been told from the beginning, I think as you have, we are the bridges, we are the lighthouses, we are the beacons. We don't have to do anything. We just have to be and keep shining our light so other people want to drink some of that Kool-Aid. One of my best friends called me and was like, Kristin, I drank the Kool-Aid and I'm making it in batches now. I'm like, that's it. And it's like, I'm not trying to force it. I'm just trying to show through example. And like, I think we started this talking about synchronicity, but like the things like when my son was like, we took him to a show and he's like, that guy's either going to play this song or I'm going to meet him. And then fast forward less than 3 months, he met him and they remember each other. And now they like talk almost every other day while the dude's on tour. And like it's at, there's
Mhm.
no way any of this can be real unless, how do I even say that? There's no way it can be fake. It, there's no way.
There's no way it can be fake, and, like, the way that, energy just meets energy and knows, like, I met someone else this week, on TikTok, Miley, and oh my gosh, like, I sent that video in the group chat, and then, she was like, "Oh, yeah, I know her," and Laura's like, "Oh, yeah, I work with her," and Brittany's like, "Oh, yeah, she's" I'm like, "How do I
Huh?
not know her? I've never even seen her face before," and then all of a sudden, like, I'm crying into voice memos, I'm like, "Oh, I love you," and she's like, "I love you," and we're sending each other healing, and she's gonna do a session, and I'm like, "What?" Like, she did a drumming session for my client today, and I was like, that was magical. I've never listened to that before. And she's like chanting over it. And I'm like, and then the patient was like, I can feel my liver vibrating, which is where her cancer is. And I was like, are you ready to have a miracle? Because we're just going to do miracles. I was doing tuning forks and she came in, she had nausea and she was exhausted and had weakness. And I said, we're going to work on true healing. We're going to heal you at the molecular cellular level in the quantum field and you're going to heal. You have to believe it. Are you ready to believe it? And she's like, I'm ready. And I said, all right, let's go. And so I did all the work on her, tuning forks, and I did Reiki and did some vagus nerve stimulation. And at the end, I said, how do you feel? She's like, I feel safe and I feel lighter and I have no nausea and no pain. I was like, then I've done my job. I
It's so
didn't give you a
beautiful.
single pill, but I guess I just did my job. And she's like, your hands are like heating pads. She's like, are they sweating? And I was like, nope, they're just super, super hot and your head's moist. Like your head is just like, I'm sending like, it was such intense energy and she could feel it pulsating and I wasn't moving at all, but she just felt like I was pulsating and I could just, I was clearing out brain fog. I was clearing out all the density and the sadness and the sorrow and just the gratitude that she had. She's like, how can I repay you? And I was like, keep telling me how you're healing. Just
That's
maybe
it. That's
walking,
it.
talking testimony and then keep me going because I need your light too. And it's just so exciting. Like, is this real life? Like, pinch me. Is this real life? I get to just heal people because I love them. Like,
Yes. But on the fun part too, in this quantum that you're dabbling in now too, is that I have had the privilege of being able to see through what we call the veil. I've literally seen through it. And the story's really long, and I feel like we could just do a whole podcast on me seeing through this veil. But I've gotten to see how we literally have less control than I ever thought. Like, I'll give an example. Was booking a flight, changing the flight, that flight disappeared. I called. Southwest says that flight doesn't exist. There is no flight. I'm like, I know it existed. I had it in my cart. Like I had it selected and I went off of it and then 20 minutes later Spirit's like check again and that flight was back. Like they have full control over everything. And if we give way to it, magic can start happening. And so then they allowed my son and my husband to see through it. They told me a day before it happened that it was going to happen. And then they witnessed it. And the whole thing is so comical now because they were like, how? How? Except for Chase. Chase was like, I knew it the whole time. Like, of course, like if spirit told you this is how it happens, like he doesn't question anything. But it's understanding so I can relay that to people that it's okay to want to think that you have control and that everything you've been programmed to believe is real, but I can start to show you that it's okay to release and surrender to that so magic can happen. Because they told me, they were like, we think that science fuels belief. And they're like, we're just way behind. And it's actually our belief fuels science. And we just don't know it yet. And that's what we're going to start showing the world is that we are going to change science through our belief.
It's so cool because I'm seeing it happen too. Like, I'm seeing things pop up in the news and I'm like, "Mhm, yeah, we've already known that in the spiritual world," and I'm like, That's just breaking news science." I'm like, "Oh, am I manifesting this? Am I pulling this into my reality? Like, what is happening right now?"
And maybe I've not gotten fully there yet to know if this is just catching up with us or if we're creating it. But maybe we are just creating it. If everything exists in the quantum and we're just catching up, then of course in that version it's going to be different. So it's going to look different and the science is going to be different. So
It just feels like we're on this, like, this tipping point, right? And it's like, I think that the collective is probably about to have a big awakening moment where there's gonna be something that happens that just have you heard of ontological shock?
yes.
So the ontological shock of where it's such a shocking event that, like, it wrecks your nervous system and you almost, like, barely can hang on for life. And that's why I think spirit drops in the way it does for us is because we have to take in microdosing. You're microdosing the spiritual awakening. You're finally, like, learning a little bit more truth here, a little bit more truth there, but you can't take it in all at once because if you did, you might explode.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what there's, like, a big something that's coming, and all of us channels are being told to hold the light, but, like, hold the light in a way that you've never held the light before. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think my microphone was just glitching out again. So can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, yeah.
Okay.
Your
Um,
technology you are such a high vibrational being. You always mess with technology.
Yeah.
Always.
And I think it's going to be so interesting with technology in the future because they told me way in the beginning, once we fully understand this, we're going to like throw our phones like in the river. I'm like, well, that's not good for Earth, but maybe we'll just like recycle them or something.
Yeah.
Because we won't need them. And I didn't fully understand that. But back to what you're saying is like that is it. And like, but I've also come to grips with that I don't have control when or where that happens, but that I'm gonna just keep shining my light until it does, because I think for a while I got stuck on dates or this or that, but then I realized it's coming from within us and that we have
Mhm.
to the collective rise up with us to get to those dates. And so that's why there is no promise because if they do try to scare us with something, and I'm sure you can go on the news right now and find something right now that
Mhm.
wants to pull your frequency back down. But we just have to consistently just be sending that love and not letting us pull down. And that's how we get there.
And that everybody is playing their role. Like, I
Yeah.
think that you helped me out with that a lot too, is, like, darker contrast entities of, people that do unkind things. Yeah,
Uh,
those entities, um, they're serving a purpose because without them, we don't see that there's a problem to even wake up. And so it's like, you need it. You need the contrast. It's the yin and yang. And the fact that in the quantum level, like when they look and they zoom in, they can see quantum entanglement. And what does it look like? A peace sign.
of
Like,
course it does.
how the hell does this ancient symbol that we now can look at,
It's a yin yang.
yin
No.
yang, sorry, the yin
Yes.
yang, the yin yang, like
Yes.
the black and the white, the contrast. It's like, how how can that be drawn very, very long ago if for not being known and seen
Yes,
before?
just been hidden from our senses, and but again, I think it's part of the game, so we could experience it by not remembering, and now we're having this fun time. I'm like, life is so much more fun than I thought it was gonna be. Like, I
Mhm.
used to think I was just gonna work until I die and then whatever, and now I'm like, "Oh, no, this is gonna be a party, and it's gonna be amazing," right?
It's just gonna be
So
so much fun. It's gonna be fun to just, like, get paid to exist and paid to live and travel the world and wake people up, but gently and through love and not abruptly through an ontological shock, but just like, "Hey, I'm just a normal girl who's going through some things. You wanna listen to my podcast?"
and they'll be
With my
drawn.
friends.
It'll be like moths to the flame, right? Because you are so bright. So I think, yeah, what's coming, we can't even understand yet, but we have to. we have to let our ego, and I have an ego now, and so it's not completely gone, but we have to let versions of our ego go. And so, like, when you brought up the different players of the game, politics usually comes into play and people are one way or the other. And I was a staunch Democrat, and I thought the people on the other side were just wrong. And there was so much infighting instead of how I see it now, that like that's a program and they want us to fight. And instead of fighting, that we can see that we're humans and that we don't need either side. And neither side is actually that great overall. And that even the bad guy, so who I would deem the bad guy, who some people think is a savior, which is also part of the light and the dark, right?
Mhm.
Um, can be all the things. And maybe we're still going to have to thank him someday for guiding us to wake up enough to say, hey, we actually don't need this. And so that's what
Yeah.
I'm excited for in the future, is to realize that we are actually sovereign and we don't need somebody outside of ourselves to guide us, that we get to guide us. And that's the most exciting part for me.
So beautiful. God, what a life.
I love it, and, like, I get people to think sometimes, and so this was even with, like, my 3D best friend, where I said something and I watched her just look up, and I was like, "Oh, she's like, she doesn't have words because she's not like, this is new." And so, like, as I'm journeying through this, like, it is all new, because I know this stuff hurts. I know it's real. I know there's pain. I had a stroke in utero when I was born, which is a wild synchronization to meeting my best friend, whose son went through the exact same thing on the opposite side of his body. And she had never met anybody who had gone through a stroke in utero, and like how that progressed. And like, it's, it's understanding that, just like you said, like those things were for us so we can relate. Like, why are you going through it? So you can have empathy for that next person that comes to you and says, but I'm in the thick of it and this hurts. And you're like, I know because I lived it. So you're not just saying I know from this vantage point of like, oh, I'm enlightened. Because I actually like, my friends will use that sometimes with me. They'll be like, oh, you just think you're enlightened. And they put me on a pedestal that I do not think I'm on. I do not even like hierarchy up and down. I think of a straight line, right? Like I am no better or no worse. I am just on my journey. And where you are is beautiful. I am not better. But I understand that based on how I look at things, it makes the darkness within them think that they're not good enough. And I have to remind them constantly that, hell yes, you are good enough. Don't let that dark tell you you're bad, because I'm sure as shit not telling you you're bad. I think you're amazing. And I think, yeah, that's why I went through all the crap that I did too. And I'm so thankful for it in post. People are like, how did you get there? And I'm like, it took some time. I wasn't like immediately like, oh, your dad went to prison and your boss is treating you like garbage. Like, oh, I just love him now. It was processing why it made me a better person.
Oh, it's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I just think it's just it's so healthy. The victimhood that I lived in for so long because I had so many things happen to me for such a prolonged period of time. And even when I say and proclaim, like, hi, I'm Amber Humphrey and I am a trauma survivor and I'm a spiritually awakened soul here to help change the world, people get triggered. I can't tell you how many people get triggered by the idea that I'm a trauma survivor. You had a good life. You had great life. Well, we gave you a great, I'm like, it's not even about just that. I am almost 40 years old. There have been a lot of people in my life who've hurt me. There's been a lot of circumstances that I found myself that have been very hurt. And they were very traumatic. And so while yes, I don't claim victimhood anymore, I don't dismiss that those things happened to me. And I can't pretend that they didn't because they made me who I am. And now I give deep gratitude for them. Every character that played a role in my life, I give deep gratitude to because they shaped me. I do not meet this version of me without 2023, without the betrayals of 2020.
Mm.
23. I never get here. I'm complacent. I rely on other people. I'm codependent. I'm a victim. I'm chronically ill. I'm just, woe is me. The world is bad. I am never going to get better. Or you get shaken into a spiritual awakening and you're just like, well, buckle up. Here we go. And then now I just can't go back. I like once you get the genie out of the bottle, there's no putting it back.
Can't put it back.
It feels like magic.
Yeah. It's such a blessing for me to hear you say it like that, though, because you did go through some really tough stuff, different level than me. However, I listened to a podcast way back when, and I think it's Gabby Bernstein, and she talks about big T and little t trauma. It's
Oh,
still trauma. Like, we are humans that want to compare ourselves every which way. There is no comparison for trauma. It doesn't matter that somebody went through a worse trauma. Your body and nervous system doesn't know that person's trauma versus yours, and you still have to navigate it, right? And then you have to accept it, integrate it, and move forward. And so I call it a charge. I couldn't come up with a good word when I was
right.
battling my husband. And I go, I feel your charge. I feel the charge when we're talking about this. That's why I know it's still not healed. And I go, I know because I had to be self aware of when I was charged, because triggered, right? So I tried to find a word that didn't feel that same way. And it's like, you can talk about those versions of you without that charge now. And so reliving it isn't reliving it like it happened yesterday and your nervous system's all out of whack. You are regulated, talking about it with love as you've done the work to integrate that version of you. And I think that's so beautiful.
And I'm so thank you. I'm just so thankful for you in my life. And I hope that every listener that listens to this episode sees our light and knows that there's so much more peace waiting for you on the other side. And I hope that people who listen to this podcast feel the light, from both of us. And, this is why I call it Light Beyond the Ashes, is because we're rising out of the ashes and finding light on the other side through peace, love, and harmony and spirit. And we have our own channel messages that we get and that I share and you share. But sometimes I just need a friend and I need to not feel alone. And my hope is that this podcast feels like the friend that just lives in your back pocket and you can just pop it in your earbuds and you can listen to this because you're not alone. None of us are alone that are going through spiritual awakenings. But it is a very lonely experience, especially in like the beginning. I feel like it's very isolating. And that's when, you've got the hermit card and tarot. It's like when you go in and then alchemize everything that you're walking through. And then on the other side of it, you become the Hierophant. You're the one who is able to share the wisdom. That's why you're here on earth, is to show the way out of the darkness and into the light. And I'm just so excited for what we do next. I know that this is going to grow some legs and this is going to go far because people need it. People need hope. People need to feel light. And I'm just so thankful that you shared your light with us today. And I can't wait to see what we create next, Kristin.
I know it's going to be amazing. And if anybody does want to reach out on TikTok, I love to do these clearings in my free time. I don't charge for them. If anybody just needs like an emotional release, that's what I specialize at. I see this looking different in the future, but right now I even do it with groups of people and I've been getting great results.
So again, you can find Kristin on Consciously Kristin as her handle on TikTok, and we'll add it into the bio for this as well. But thank you so much for your time and for sharing your journey and your experiences with all of us. We are eternally grateful. I guess until next time, everybody. Is there anything else you want to share?
I was going to just say, I know I'll be back because there's a lot more to cover. So
There's more to cover, and hopefully we'll have Ashley, your spiritual bestie. We'll have Brittany Renee. We'll have anybody else that's hoping to be on. I'm very excited about who's guests that might come on this season. So this is Light Beyond the Ashes, and my name's Amber Humphrey, and I am just so excited to meet more and more spiritually awakened souls on this journey, ready to rise, ready to elevate. Until next time. Bye, guys.